investor himself. As Frank's been on the channel before, he's been on the One Rental at a Time channel, and we need to get him on the Real Estate Rookie podcast for BiggerPockets. We should work on that. Frank, you invested during 2008. Things didn't go amazing. Like me, you made some mistakes with adjustable rate debt back in the day when that was the right thing to do, people thought. Since then, you've learned and you started investing again. And let's break down when you started investing this time around. And because the ultimate goal with this video is to let somebody watching understand what are people doing in 2025. And then this is actually me cheating. This is an exercise for you because a lot of people don't understand that there's this business concept that once something is measured, it can be improved. And if you start doing anything with the idea of teaching in mind, like if I'm going to do this thing, but I need to be able to show someone else how to do it, you'll get a better understanding of it. So I'm hoping that as you got the data together to share with everybody your portfolio update, you and me maybe find some things in your portfolio that you didn't expect or that you can make better. So when did you start this time around?
Well, we started re-educating ourselves in 2019, and we, like I've mentioned before, we found BiggerPockets. Through BiggerPockets, we found Zuber. Then we found you. We purchased our first property in 2021, August of 2021. It was a triplex, and I started out in the Midwest. Was looking for turnkey deals. Along with Zuber, we found Ali Boone, who's a turnkey promoter, and that concept was appealing because it was a lower barrier to entry than it was here in California. We're on the Central Coast in California, and that first property's in Missouri.
So you're Central Coast in California, not house hacking.
No.
You own the house in California?
Yes.
Okay, so you own there. Have you ever done a cash out refinance or home equity line of credit on it?
No. And well, I'm sorry, I should say back the first time we invested, I did. And so it added a lot of debt to our primary residence. And as you know, we lost the properties. We bought two here in Sacramento, California, without any education, and we lost those. And still had the debt on our primary, so it added a few $1,000s there.
It's a painful lesson, and actually I have this conversation very often, and one with one of my siblings recently, where the person goes, "I have $700,000 in equity in my house. How can I get started in rentals?" Well, the last thing I would do is put your home at risk or add debt to an existing asset to get started into something that you have a steep learning curve on. Right? That adjustable rate debt from 2008, that bit both of us. Something that we now know is not something we're willing to risk.
Yeah, I think that's where I was going with it because, again, through all that whole mess, we ended up going through bankruptcy in 2010. And after that, we're pretty gun shy to try and pull anything out of the house, until we end up selling it, hopefully to relocate.
I'm looking forward to that. I'm something I've never done is the cash out refinance or the home equity line of credit. I did refinance to better rates in 2020, but I didn't pull any money out. I don't want to add debt to existing assets. I know that a lot of people think it's a great way to go, and people like Matt the Lumberjack Landlord will complain about debt equity. And if my goal was a bigger portfolio, sure, I might find a strategy that could use it, but that's not my goal. So you got the triplex in 2021, and you said Midwest. Where at in the Midwest?
That one is specifically in St. Joseph, Missouri. It's about 45 minutes from Kansas City.
Okay. How's that triplex doing? Well, first, wait, how was that first year with the triplex, 2021 to 2022?
It was tough. I learned a ton of stuff. After that purchase, I picked a property manager that it was a company that my mom was using in Texas. And I thought we had good luck with them there. And so I thought I'd try them with the triplex, but they were actually close to Kansas City, so they weren't going to St. Joseph, Missouri very often. Even when they listed the property for rent and things like that, they would try to bundle jobs before they went out. And we ended up having to carry that mortgage for probably 4 to 5 months until I found, just by chance, I found another property manager that was closer to the area. And before we signed up with him, he went by and looked at the property. I thought it was a good property and that it was a good investment. And he was willing to take it on. He's 20 minutes away, but he has a lot of other properties in the area as well. So we've been with him ever since. And once we signed up with him, he had the place fully rented within a month. So it was a slow start, but the year ended on a good note.
So you close in August, September, October, November, at least those 3 months you carry it yourself. December, January, sometimes you decide to switch property managers. How do you think life would have went if in September you found a new property manager?
It would have been quite a bit better because we would have had all those months of rental income.
Yeah, so I mean, I want to kind of go over, then I wish I could do this on a whiteboard, but I'm not that talented with the tech yet. Let's say, how much was the mortgage every month going out? Do you remember, just a roundabout number?
Yeah, it was $900. $900
$900.
per pity.
Okay, going out every month.
Mm-hmm.
And then once all 3 units were rented, what was it making?
2,000 for all 3.
2,000. For all 3 rented together, the gross income was 2,000.
Mm-hmm.
So you had $1,100 in profit, right? So people will say, well, you lost $1,100. No, you had 900 going out. So you missed out on 1,100 in profit each month. Like it combined together, the psychological impact of the vacant units is huge in the beginning. It's one of the reasons where you'll find so many investors, they say, I really want to buy a vacant property so that I can do a decent rehab, not spend all the money, but upgrade everything. But it's the shiny new one and I get market rents or better. I prefer rent ready or tenant occupied properties where somebody's already in place, where I don't have the rehab costs, I don't have the months to carry. Yeah, it takes a little bit for the binder to get rents where they need to be, but I don't have the whole mortgage going out. You're impacting your profit then instead of all of your expenses. So the first takeaway for somebody getting started is hire slow, fire fast. Like take a month to find the property manager you want, but get rid of the one that's not performing quickly. And then when I self-manage, I initially at the very beginning, I put a 1 hour radius drive time, because in the US we don't measure distance in kilometers or miles. We measure it in time. I would do the same thing with a property manager. I don't know that I'd want a property manager more than 45 minutes to an hour away from the rentals, because they'll do that. They'll batch jobs. They won't go for a small repair. They won't go show the property when it's needed, right? They'll do the version of I do, probably open house showing, but they won't be as detailed because it's so far away. So that's definitely a consideration. How much is the mortgage on that triplex currently? Has it changed any since 2021?
It's gone up a little bit. It's $950.
Okay, and I would expect it to go up another 50 at least in the next year, with insurance being impacted by storms in Florida, fires in California. It's going to impact the whole nation. And what is the gross rents on that place now?
Today, it's 2,200.
2,200. And how do you think those rents compare with area average rents?
On paper, they're a little bit low. So for a 2-bedroom, 1 bath there, the FMR is 1,200. The 2 of the smaller units are rented for 700 each, and the big one on the bottom is rented for 850. And then there is a garage there that I believe we're getting $100 a month for that. So it's a little bit more than 2,200, but in speaking with the property manager about that, because we've been learning about that with you and Matt and everybody, that it was a little confusing because the FMRs are so high, but that market doesn't support it. And we did a lot of repairs or updates to the property this year because it wasn't keeping up well with other rentals in the area. So we have now 3 newer tenants in the units. It's an old Victorian home. It was really clean and nice, but it wasn't modern like a lot of the other places. So that was part of the issue, I think, with the rents.
So here's where a lot of new investors step on their own feet. They'll learn that Section 8 has this thing called fair market rents. You can go to the housing authority, they can Google fair market rents, and you could look it up. It usually goes by county, by state. More populated areas will go down to zip code. And if you're investing out of state, you might look at a market like this and go, wow, $1,200 a unit for 2 1s, whatever it is for 1 bedrooms. So they'll think, I'll get at least that. And then the reality is the fair market rents is one metric, right? It's one key performing indicator that goes, this is how we can factor rents, because you also have a person sitting in the housing authority that can go on Zillow and Redfin and Realtor and look up rentals and go, yeah, we have fair market rents is at 1,200, but I can find units all day long at 900 or 1,000. So we're never going to rent it at 1,200, right? So when we're doing a rent study for the rent box that the lumberjack landlord talks about, right? Zuber and everybody talks about the buy box. This is the house I want to buy. This is the strategy I'm using, but we have the rent box that Matt talks about. It's a study, right? It's weeks of, sure, what if fair market rents? That kind of gives you the cap because you have to include utilities in that. There are places where they'll pay higher, but it's pretty rare. Then you go to Rentometer, you see what the historical data that's been collected says. That's not accurate in a lot of places because in some places, very few rentals are listed in a format that end up on Rentometer's database. Then you can collect basic allowance for housing. What will they pay military if there's a base close by? Or what will they pay military if they're using the GI Bill at a local college? For that can impact housing. And then you go to Redfin, Zillow, Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, and you do for 2 weeks, you watch the rentals of the number of units you have, different amenities you have, whether you have a carport, garage, pool, hot tub, whatever the thing is that you have. Fair market rents doesn't look at any of that, but the market does. So you would know if you looked at this triplex in that area, you went to Rentometer, you went to Zillow, you went to Craigslist, you went to Facebook Marketplace, and you said, wow, fair market says 1,200, but the market doesn't support that. Then you know to run your numbers a little more conservatively on what rents could be. And there's a lot of people who don't do that. They literally hear somebody in the video go, all right, go to fair market rents and see what they'll pay. And then so they go there and they look, that could be $300-$400 off. They could be way higher than the area market can do. It can be way lower sometimes. So the rent study is very important. So now you have a little more than 2,200 coming in, a little more than 950 going out. Sometimes people underestimate the power of small numbers. How much do you think you're cash flowing on that place?
Um, it's for all 3 units, the positive cash flow after all expenses is 650
Is that before or after setting aside for repairs, maintenance, and vacancy?
after.
So it's after. So you have 650. So let's say you do a 5% rent increase. 5%. That's the increase, right? So just off the top of your head, how much do you think that would increase your net?
It makes quite a big difference with the lower price points that we're at.
So I'm going to go to the calculator. So 2,200, we'll just count the garage as extra, but you got 2,200 coming in times 0.05. So it's a $110 increase, right? So it's not a $110 increase of 2020. Like that doesn't seem like a lot. 2,000 going up 100. But what you have is your 650 is increased by 110. Right? It's like, what is that? It's basically a sixth of an increase compared to it's a 5% ish, right? It's a massive difference on the net, a small increase. That's why when people say, well, I'm happy with my homeowner's insurance, I really don't want to call around for quotes. You make an adjustment that hits your gross, like lowering your deductible or something. Sure, it's not that big, but when you look at it, what it compares to your net, Don't underestimate the power of small numbers. People would think, well, $100 a month, that's not really a big deal. It's a huge percentage increase to what you were profiting. So after 2021, I bought a duplex in 2021. So we were both buying in that year. What'd you do? What was your next purchase?
It was in April of 2022. It was a duplex in Milwaukee.
How did you pick the other market?
That one, we were involved in a few groups. This came from kind of like a wholesale group that was had been doing business in Milwaukee for a long time, and they had landlords that would bring them properties before putting them on the market. This was basically, I would call it turnkey, but it wasn't through a turnkey provider. And so they presented the deal to us, and I was too excited, and we got it. It's okay. Cynthia and I were just talking about that today. It's an okay deal, but the cash on cash return from what I calculated today is barely like 2%.
Okay. So the first year with the triplex, you go from August to August. Do you think you made any money?
I would say in the first year we did.
Okay.
And then 2024, we put a lot of money into it to bring it up to par with the other units in the area.
Okay. So when you started with the triplex, you said at the beginning, you said it was very challenging, right?
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever seen my videos where I talk about how my first year went?
Yes.
I lost $6,000. That was my net outcome to owning a rental the first year. So having a positive number, as challenging it was, good job, right? Good job educating yourself and having the experience to not lose money that first year. So you buy this second one, you say it's got about a cash on cash return of 2%.
Mm-hmm.
To me, the biggest challenge is you're in Missouri and then you go to Milwaukee. And I have to be honest, I went to school in America. They don't teach us anything. I would have to use autocorrect to figure out how to spell either one of those states. So you're in such a different market to where you're at. It took you 4 months or 5 months to find a good property manager in the first market. How did the property management go in the second market?
I did try to get references for property management companies there. The wholesaler that we bought it from had recommended a company, and for some reason I didn't feel good about that one, so I chose my own. And that wasn't a good choice. We ended up firing that property manager probably 6 or 8 months ago.
Okay. So you had him for almost 2 years?
Close to 2 years.
Okay. Hire slow, fire fast.
Yeah, I'm learning.
Do you know what percentages you're paying to property management?
It looks like it's a total of 10%. For all of our properties, we pay about $1,000 a month, and we have 7 properties. We have 10 doors.
Okay. So you get and what type of property was it in Milwaukee?
It's a duplex.
Duplex. Okay.
Yeah. And that one was in pretty good shape. It was built in 76, and that mortgage is 1,700 and the rents are 1,350 per unit.
Not a great cash on cash return, depending on how much you put down on it. It's cash flow positive. The challenge for me isn't that somebody could look at that and go, well, it's not that great of a return, but you're not losing money, right? But you could have hunted for the deal that's a better return. If you're especially investing in a distance, find a market that has a bit better return. But then the things that help us decide when to buy a deal is, are we ready and did we find a great deal? So if you at the time thought that was a great deal, you got excited, looked like it needed very little work, I could totally see jumping on that.
On that one, it did need some work. We got a credit for 20,000 from the seller. So we used that to make some improvements at the time.
Okay. good. Negotiating that is pretty good. What's the next property? The third one.
The third one was another turnkey, 2-bedroom, 1-bath in Illinois that we ended up buying for cash.
Finding all these states I don't know how to spell. It's embarrassing. All right, so you bought one for cash in Illinois, so there's no mortgage. How much was the purchase price?
60,000.
Okay. What made you choose a third market?
A turnkey provider. And we're still working with Allie, and this she has turnkey. She works with turnkey providers in various states, obviously, and this one, when I was looking at deals, I'm always wanting to get properties that at least have a new roof, and they give you a scope of work when you're looking at them. This one had the new roof. It was remodeled inside, kitchens and bathrooms, and they send you their scope of work. We're still able to get our own inspections, and everything looked really good. And I think at the time I might have mentioned to you that we had that money sitting in the bank, and if I would have just left it in the bank, it would have disappeared, for one reason or another, just going through life. So I figured I was better off putting it in a property than letting it sit.
I understand that. I almost had an unrelated story, but I could see that. Move the money from the bank into a property. It's a little harder to access and a little more productive. And there's a lot of people who go, well, in my bank, I can get 4% interest rate in these last few years. So if you bought one that only has a 2% return, the bank would have been a safer bet. But you have to know yourself, would you have used it on something less productive? The 2% is cash on cash return, which because of depreciation is probably not going to be taxed. And then the property appreciates too. So the one that you bought in 2021, how much was the purchase price? Purchase price?
170.
170. What do you think it's worth now?
I didn't get a chance to look that up. I don't imagine it has grown that much in value. So I'm not sure.
In Zoom, can you type?
In Zoom.
Yeah, do you know how to do that?
I can. I'm on my phone.
Oh, you're in the chat. Okay, never mind. Oh, well, text me the address. What I'd like to do is look up the Zillow estimate. I won't share the address because we don't want, some crazy person going and messing with your tenants. But if you text me the address, I want to look up the Zestimate, the Redfin estimate, the estimate, and see how close to 170 we are there.
Okay.
One of the things that Millennial and Mike and I go back and forth on is I like to invest in Washington because we've had about 40% appreciation in the last, 5 years, where yes, it's a high cost of living area. Yes, it's hard to get into that. I didn't invest for appreciation, but we should be watching that too. At some point, Zuber talks about at what point do your properties become so valuable you'd rather sell them? Like, when is it time to do that? And for me, I don't have a number. The more they're worth, the less likely I am to sell. Okay, so I will look this up, and then I'll find that out in a little bit. So you get the third one in Illinois. It's turnkey. How's that one doing?
It's had its challenges, but the rents come in steady since we've owned it. So that one we paid 60 for it. The rent is 820. It's a Section 8 tenant, and taxes and insurance on that one are about 150 a month.
So the principal so the rents are 820, and then it's about 150 a month. And then how much are you setting aside for repairs, maintenance, and vacancy?
Right now we're setting everything aside to rebuild our reserves because we spent so much of them in 2024. But if our reserves are full, we would be setting aside 20%.
And 20% of 800 math would be
160.
160, yeah.
160, and the property management there is $65.
So basically just under $400 a month that's going to the side. So 420 a month-ish in profit
Mhm.
And so, I mean, you can literally, this is how people can look at this, is you could take the numbers really quick on a calculator and you can go, you bought it for 60,000. So then you said you put some, it was turnkey, didn't need much work.
Didn't need
You did your
anything.
own inspection, it had an appraisal. So the total cost to purchase was probably 62,000.
Yeah, I would say right in there.
So 62,000. But you make 420 a month. So times 12 divided by 62,000 gets you a little over an 8% yield. And that's just cash on cash. That doesn't count if you bought it for 60, what is it worth now? It's been, a little over a year since you purchased that one. So at this point, you have a triplex, a duplex, a single family house. It's 2023. Interest rates are going up. So that might be why you did a cash purchase. You didn't have to worry about the interest rates.
Yeah, I think the bigger reason, like I was saying earlier, with having that money sitting in the bank, for me, it's usually like some life expense, a new engine for the van or something on the house. And I figured if we had the money in the property and an issue came up, I can always find a way to get the money for that engine or whatever it is. But if that 60 was just sitting in the bank and you use, 10 here and 5 there, pretty much in a little while it'd be gone.
So in 2021, 22, 23, while you're acquiring these first three properties, you're working full-time running your remodeling business,
Hmm.
and Cynthia's working.
Yeah.
How many calls were you getting on average with tenant issues and property management issues?
On those first 3 properties, not many really.
Okay, so it was easy to do your job, not be too distracted. It wasn't taking a lot of your time away.
Mhm. Yeah,
Okay,
and when we did have calls or emails, you could manage that pretty easily. And being back there, a lot of times we would get up early and deal with that stuff because they're already up. 6 o'clock
right.
here is 8 o'clock there. So
Fair enough. So it didn't interfere with your life too much. It gave you something productive to do with the money. You're also learning how to find property managers, what matters to you. All right, so property number 4. What's that one?
that one that was another turnkey actually, and that one wasn't through Alley. That was kind of following Millennial Mike because it's in Gary. And we bought a turnkey with the company that he started out with.
What's
And
that one again? Do you remember
what was what?
the name of that company?
The Olson Group.
Olson Group, right?
Yeah.
I just want to make sure we give them a shout out because several people have purchased through them now after Millennial Mike being a lead by example kind of person.
Yeah.
So
And
how did that one go?
it's been very smooth. It took a little bit longer to rent than they said it would. And we had to drop the rent just a little bit to get it rented. So we bought it at 120. When they advertised it, they said the rent would be about 12.95. Excuse me, 12.50. And we ended up dropping it after 4 weeks to 11.95, and it was rented within 2 weeks after that. So we realized that the return wasn't going to be what we were expecting in the other markets, because typically we would shoot for a 10% cash on cash return with at least $200 positive per door. And this one, after I calculated the yield on that one, it's about a 5% cash on cash return.
Okay. And have you continued to do a rent study to see how that 11.95 compares to see if it was what time of the year it was? Most people make a huge mistake when it comes to listing rentals, and they think, so I mean, you gave it 4 weeks, then you did a rent adjustment. I totally understand it. But there's people who'll go, I'm going to list it for 2 weeks and see what happens. If you list it in the first week of the month, there should be interest for those people who've given notice and have a month to find a new place. If you list it in the last week of a month, most of the people that month hunting have found their place. or they have pushed off till the next month. So listing a property in the first couple of weeks of a month tends to get more attention. So if I list it in the beginning of the month and it lasts longer, I might do a rent adjustment. If I list it at the end of the month, because I list it when it's available. I don't time my listing. I time my adjustments. If I list it at the end of the month, I figure that first week is a dead week, doesn't count. Because who is ready, because that's a red flag, to move tomorrow and has to do it in a hurry? Right. So I'll do it if they just move into the area, they were looking, or they're willing to move up their date to get the place or something. But if it's somebody I've got to move tomorrow, I don't care what's available, they're the drama where they're coming out of, and you don't want that in your place. But in the last month, I really won't count that last week as strong as I count the first week towards how long until I do a rent adjustment. So, and also time of year, right? And on the West Coast, we really kind of don't care. Winter rent's just the same as July. I'll get just as much demand. But on the East Coast or in the Midwest, where you could die if you get locked outside of your house for a few hours, it's less likely to move in the winter. I get it. So the fourth one, when did you buy that one?
The fourth one was in July of 2023.
So a 5% return in a year and a half with a year to measure it by. You've had it for a year and a half now.
The Gary property, yes.
Okay. I want to know what's happening with that property in 3 years. Right. It's the 3 to 4 years seems to be this weird sweet spot where your cash on cash return at least doubles, if not triples. Because that's the thing. It's a few years. And that's why there's a lot of people who say, well, I have $1 million to invest. I can buy 5 duplexes and keep reserves. That won't set you free. But owning one for 8 years and one for 6 years and one for 4 years and one for 2 years, having that chance for the yield to turn up so much is a better. It's not that it's better to go that way. It's that if you invest $1 million, now you have to wait some years for the yield to be big enough to make a difference. And the one in Gary is a house or a duplex?
It's a 3-1 single family.
Okay.
Those two are the duplex and the triplex are the only multifamilies we have. Everything else has been a single so far.
Looking back now, are you happy that you're in so many different markets, or do you think that's part of the challenge?
I think it's a slight challenge. I think if, for example, we ended up in St. Louis and we have 3 singles there, and that property manager has been awesome. I think if all of our properties were there, I think it would be a lot easier to manage, even though I think I have a pretty good relationship with all the different managers that we have. Yeah, so I guess it's kind of like, if your first baby is twins, you don't know what it's like just to have one. So it's that kind of thing. So I think if we were starting over again, I probably would, like Zuber said, just stay in one market. If things are working good there, why mess it up?
So the first market you're in, you had a rough first year. If you had stayed there and you didn't fix the property management issue, I could see why people say, well, real estate sucks because you picked a rough market with a bad property manager and you were challenged. So I understand going to different markets and finding it. So you got 3 in St. Louis. That's and how did you find those and how are they doing?
Yeah, on that one, so I mentioned earlier, we were super happy with our property manager on the triplex. And I'm not sure how it came up, but I asked him if he knew anyone who managed in St. Louis. And the property manager that groomed him is in St. Louis. So we were actually looking for a property in St. Louis that he could manage for us. It took us about a year, maybe a little bit longer, to find a property. I ended up back on BiggerPockets looking for an agent in St. Louis, and we ended up finding one that was also affiliated with another group that we belong to. So there was, I guess, kind of some built-in trust with that agent because both of those groups hold them accountable as far as standards and morals and those kinds of things, business practices.
Well, it's one of the reasons why if I was going to invest at a distance, I looked at using Millennial Mike's um, systems network and going to Gary, Indiana. It's right. Investing at a distance, you want that trusted boots on the ground. So you had a very tenuous, this property manager is good. He makes a recommendation for you to invest in this new market. So it worked out great. There are a lot of people who don't do it that way. You looked for where is the person that would be good at managing this. Let me buy rentals there. There are a lot of people who go, which market has the best cash on cash return? Okay, I want to buy there. But they don't have the trusted boots on the ground. They don't have the network. And they're just one investor. Right. So here's to me the challenge would be if you're in Illinois, you're in Missouri, you're in Milwaukee, the property managers that you're working with, you have 1 to 3 properties with them. If you had 7 with one, and you filtered through till you found a good one, you have negotiation power. You can get the percent down. You're less likely, I think, to be taken advantage of on upcharges because your volume, right? And so monitor that. You're always saying, send me the receipt for what you're showing, what we replace, and then you actually go to Lowe's or Home Depot's website and look up, you buy stuff all the time. So you might not need to do that, but another investor might need to go, okay, they replaced the blinds. How much should that cost? And you look it up and you go, okay, well, the blinds plus the installation, sure. So to at Lowe's shopping, you've probably been there a few thousand times. Have you ever seen the screen when you hit select and it says, would you like installation?
Mhm.
So if one time I was in buying a light and a mirror, and so installing a mirror install, the fee to install the mirror was $150. There was a Lowe's option to install a mirror, $150, which I kind of get. They got to pay the person to drive all the way to where they're going. They got to have the right stuff to put it in. They're responsible if it falls and breaks. Like 150, I could see it. But I bought a toilet. Have you ever seen how much they charge to install a toilet? 2
I can't
bolts
imagine.
and a hose.
I
Any
mean,
guess?
a plumber, a regular plumber is probably around $300 or so.
So the Lowe's fee on the screen to install a toilet was $998. 2 bolts and a hose. And
I
yeah,
hope
you got
you
to
don't
put the
get.
wax ring in and know if you need a single or a double depending on your flooring, but you don't have that negotiation power the way your portfolio is currently set up. So hunting through to find the right property manager can have a huge impact on you. Hunting through to find the right what are most of your deductibles set on your homeowner's insurance policies?
Well, since over the past year, we haven't really been looking to buy anything new, so we've had time to work on stabilization and optimization, and we've gone through our insurance policies, and we've found ways to save. I did find in the beginning, most of the companies we were with were only letting us go up to $2,500 deductibles. And recently I found one that let us go up to 5,000, and that saved a bit.
Yeah, I'm wondering why, because there's been times where mine would limit to 5,000 as well. Most of mine are at 10,000. I think if you're large enough and you can show funds, they'll even go with a higher deductible than that. But it brings down the premium. And the goal is, I mean, unless it's catastrophic, you're not making an insurance claim because what it can do can triple your rates. No one else will insure you for 5 years. I kind of want to do a video right now on the biggest mistake people are doing. So you have started acquiring in 2021 when inflation was really hitting. So your insurance is probably accurate because there's 3 ways that people do insurance. The first one is they make the bank whole. The lender requires that the mortgage is covered. So if the place burns down, mortgage is paid off. Now you have a husk of a property. That's the first way. And that's usually what happens with what's called lender placed insurance. So if you don't provide the insurance, the lender will place it, but they're only going to cover the mortgage. The second way people do it is when they buy it, they get replacement value. But the third problem is they don't look at how much costs have gone up. what it would cost to build that duplex in 2025 versus what it would take in 2018 when they originally got their first insurance, or 2013 when they first got it. So then the place burns down and they come out and they go, well, you have a policy for $300,000. It's great. It's what you paid for the duplex. It's what it would cost to replace it in 2013. It's $700,000 to build right now. Here's a check for $300,000. We're done talking to you. Because they never go back and they readjust the covered amount for actual replacement cost. And that's a huge, there's a lot of people that are learning that right now in California that, yeah, some insurance places canceled the policies, and that doesn't mean people didn't have access to insurance. They had to go to different companies. Premiums were more, but they didn't do full replacement value. So they're underinsured. Yes, Ryan, 1,000 was, go to the screen the next time you buy and just watch the screen. Would you like to have this installed? It was $1,000.
I hope they don't get many takers.
They, I would hope they don't, but there's probably some people thinking I couldn't even carry it into my house.
Yeah, that's true.
So, all right. So am I missing any? You've got the 3 single families and then the other 4. What do you have beyond that?
We went through the first 4, and then the last 3, the single families in St. Louis, we bought, one was in 2023 and the other 2 just this year. And that was another thing I was wanting to chat about too, because again, I got excited and the last one that we bought probably should have waited, because using the money for the down payment and everything would have saved us, because we spent a lot of our reserves to remodel and get everything. We went through 2 evictions. Both the tenants in the duplex are new. So there were turnovers there. So if we had had that extra $30,000 or $35,000, I would have been a little easier to sleep.
Yeah. Turnover is expensive. Turnover at the same time is frustrating. Going into your reserves to handle that stuff, that never feels good. Timing on things can really matter. What does the portfolio, this was where we started the video to get to this point, but to give a good understanding of it, you started in 2021, because there's so many people when you talk real estate, they say, well, you bought that in 1990. Of course it was super cheap and you're a millionaire now. Well, no, you started investing in rentals 4 years ago, basically. What does all the mortgage payments that you're paying every month going out and property management fees and everything, what do you think your expenses are?
For our mortgages and property management, it's about $5,000 total. 4,000, well, excuse me, 4,600 for mortgages and 1,000 for property management.
So 5,600 or so going out.
Mhm.
Gross rents coming in.
Those are the gross rents. I had it here somewhere.
That's okay. So when you're running your portfolio, it's kind of fun when you get your first or second rental. These numbers just come right off the top of your head after you have 3 or 4. You start needing a spreadsheet. It's kind of nice not knowing exactly. I was talking the other day about how money becomes fuzzy. Right? There's probably been times in both of our lives where we knew before the next check deposited, we had $28 until that day, or $17 in the account. But you just said my expenses are about $5,000. Well, actually, it's 4,600 plus 1,000. So a variance of $800 from what you initially said to what was true. $800, because it's fuzzy. It doesn't really matter. You know there's more money coming in than there's going out. But back when you knew there's $28 in my account, I can't do more than that until the check clears. Big change life. So what are the gross rents coming in?
They, let's see, 2, 3. It's right about 12,000.
Okay, so 56 going out, 12,000 coming in. And you're setting aside 20% for repairs, maintenance, and vacancy?
We are now. It was 15 for the longest time. Now we upped it to 20.
So that's something I talk about often. I live in a very high cost of living area, right? The average two-bedroom rents out for 2,000, 2,200. Um, so I set aside 15%, and that's so far right now it's a little about 61 or $2,000 a year, right? Going into an account for repairs. My worst year when I did a roof, replaced a septic system was 38,000, all the expenses from that year. So I've never come close to the 15%. But Millennial Mike and you have invested in some $60,000 for a house places. 15% is not enough. You'll go through more than that on repairs or an eviction or something. So 20% is good. So 12,000 coming in. I'm going to times that by 0.8. So you set aside $2,400 for repairs, maintenance, and vacancy. That's if you set aside 20%. So there's 9,600 left minus the 5,600. So you have about 4,000 a month in cash flow.
Yeah, it's pretty close to that. It's about 35 is what I came up with earlier.
Oh, that's because you have one paid off house. And so you have taxes going out on that too.
Yeah, we have two paid off
Paid off
houses.
houses. Yeah. So the mortgages, the 5,600 or the 4,600 mortgages going out don't count the insurance and taxes on the two. Okay. So I see. So $3,500 a month that comes in that you don't have to sell your life for 1 hour at a time. After the first one you said you got in what, April of 2021?
Yes,
August of 2021. August of 21.
August 21.
Right. So you are 4 years and 4 months into owning properties. That's very close. At 4 years, 4 years, a little over 4 years of investing for me. No, 5.5 years. 5.5 years. I was at $2,700 a month in cash flow. So you're
Really?
performing better than I did
Hmm.
in your first 4 years to my first 5.5 years. And that's the challenge. There's so many people that go, well, when I started, when Dion started, I'll talk about myself in a third party, but somebody else is thinking this. Bunch of bad debt, low income, bad debt to income ratio, but no knowledge. The person who starts today can have YouTube University, the podcasts, one rental at a time, BiggerPockets, all this knowledge coming at them. It's still a 10-year journey. It's an easier, less stressful 10-year journey because you can go to somebody and go, hey, I feel like I'm only getting, this much of a return. I'm like, yeah, but I lost money that first year. So good job not losing money that year. $3,500 a month in cash flow. That is, let me see. I'll just run some math here really quick. So 3,500 times 12, 42,000 a year divided by 2,080. It's basically like you have a $20 an hour job that you don't have to work for. Somebody is working for you $20 an hour all day, every day. Well, 40 hours a week. That's what you've done. That's awesome. And then we have the income snowball that's going to happen here soon. I'm going to take it to the chat for a second to see if anybody has any questions about your portfolio, something that I missed or they would like to know. See a lot of people saying howdy. A lot of the people that were in the chat with you. Cynthia says, Frank got off early today to do this video. He could have had more money. No, that's not what she said. She said, thank you for helping us. Remember, we're on the right track. Hard to see when you're in the thick of it. Very encouraging. Awesome. Yeah, you guys, I mean, it's doing great. It's not like you invested for 5 years and now you guys can live in la la land and do whatever you want. But this 5 years was going to happen, whether you did this or not. And if you weren't buying rentals in these last 5 years, you might have a newer looking van or some better looking stickers on it or some new tools or something. But these are some really positive changes you guys have done to your life.
Yeah, I'm thankful for it. And like you mentioned earlier, the difference from the first time we tried to this time was huge, with all the information that's so readily available and finding the right people to follow, you and Zuber and Mike and Matt, and we have a great group of people in the community. Even the financial firefighter, we like him too.
We do, even though he goes live when I'm live sometimes and takes away my viewers. Did you think of that, Mark? It wasn't just one way. Awesome. Well, I see Michelle is in Colombia watching this. This is good. That's staying motivated even when you're traveling. I love it.
That's awesome. They're Michelle and um, Cody and Mikey and Anna, Jason. They were kind of like our core group starting out once we found you, and they're all doing great things, and we've learned a lot from them too. So thank you to them.
That's the whole thing. It's a community, and you get around the right people. We talk about you can't change the people around you, but you can change the people around you. And that's what we're doing. We're getting around people that think this way. Like I've got personal friends from, like, I was in the Marines together in Desert Storm. That's how long we've been friends. We cannot talk finances, period. Because first he was waiting for prices to crash. Now he's waiting for interest rates to come down. Like every time there's one of those things where, oh, and of course when he buys a rental, it's going to be in an LLC. Like I can't do it. So I have to find the people who are speaking the same language, have the same vernacular, have some of the similar goals, who, when you say, I closed on another rental, they say, congratulations, not, oh, you took a house off the market for some homeowner out there. Like that, those words come out of people's mouths. It's crazy.
Yeah, and it's there's been so many learning all the things that we've learned over the past few years and all the different mindset shifts, like you just mentioned, and Zuber talks about it a lot with, not caring what the rate is today. You can find a deal that works with the interest rates where they're at, and you should still go for it. I think that was one of the big ones for us.
Yeah, always a great time to buy a great deal. I want to say half of my properties I purchased above 6% interest. I refinanced later, so that was a nice thing to do, but I bought them and they made sense and they made money
Mhm.
above 6% interest. Uh, my next one I buy will probably be above 6% interest. People get tripped up with short memories. We go, yeah, no, we had 3% interest just a few years ago. No, it's close to like 4 or 5 years ago now that we had those interest rates. We haven't seen that in a minute. So it's time to start finding properties that make sense. There's a Jason and Cody and kind of a bunch of people being supportive in the chat, which is really cool. Thanks for coming on here, Frank, and doing this. I appreciate it. It saved me because I almost had a rant video today. I was going to do retiring at 52 was the dumbest smart thing I ever did. I'm going to do it tomorrow, but it'll be less ranty because I just had this epiphany today, and I don't like my rant videos. So
Yeah, no, I appreciate you taking the time to get together, and I know everybody else always appreciates all the support and advice and everything that you give us. So thank you.
there is a question. Money says, working on closing on my first duplex property this month. Please pray for everything to go smoothly. We'll learn from this experience and move on to the next one. Well, I hope everything goes well for you on your first property that you're closing on. And believe me, that the nervousness and the fear doesn't go away. It just changes form. So be ready for that. And it's a part of it. If it wasn't nerve-wracking and it wasn't stressful, so many people would do it, it wouldn't be worth doing. But that's one of the barriers that keeps people from doing it. So let me know how it's going. Let me know how that purchase goes. I'm sure Frank would like to hear too. The last thing we'll wrap up with, Frank, what does 2025 look like for you as far as rentals goes?
Well, we certainly won't be buying anything new. We're going to get these stabilized. I think in one of our earlier discussions, we still have the three singles in St. Louis that we're getting. One of them came on the market a month ago. I talked to you about that one. Two of them will be finished with the rehabs at the end of this month. Not the best time to put them on the market, but it'll be nice to get those three filled. And then I think we're just going to start rebuilding our reserves.
Yeah. Remember, a lot of people say, it's not good to list in the winter. So a lot of people don't, which means those few people who need a place don't have a lot to pick from. So awesome. I'm right there with you. I don't want to buy anything until the end of 2025. And that might be either after a cash out refinance on the one I'm in or a sale of the one I'm in. And it's nice having options. So I like to see the options you guys have going forward too. And I think I asked this during the members, when does Cynthia quit working?
When is that? June?
June 1st.
June 1st. She's
Nice,
counting
yes.
the days. Yeah.
So focus on the stabilization between now and then. And like I said, right now you have somebody making $20 an hour for you on another job after taxes. So whatever that would be before taxes, that's your after taxes income.
That's a great way to look at it.
Yeah, by July you will have I think it'll be a great time to retire for her. So that's awesome.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it.
Okay, and I will pin a comment in the comment section with a link to old Guy REI's YouTube channel where you should go and check out his next van confession.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Talk to you soon.
And we are off of YouTube. Nice.
Great.
Cool.